The Indiana Hoosiers just won the college football playoff national championship, but here's what's going to make people mad is they aren't going anywhere.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Indiana, they are national champions. And I hope that you have celebrated. I hope that you have let it sink in. And I hope that you are enjoying every single moment of this. But here's what's awesome is the Hoosiers are not going anywhere. This was not a one-hit wonder, and this was not just some magical run. I've been telling you that, and I think people are starting to understand that. We sit down with our buddy Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football and talk about why Indiana's run was not just a one-hit wonder, and why Indiana could do it again next year.
Indiana, the national champions in football in the 2025 season. Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers, is here.
Yeah, baby.
On our live stream yesterday, Goins, you posed a question that I still don't have the answer to. Mm-hmm. How long will it take for this to fully set in?
I'm there. I'm good.
I know you are. I'm just saying for people like me.
Yeah.
To wrap your mind around the idea of Indiana winning the national championship is a paradigm shifter. I mean, this completely changes the way you look at college football. Anything is possible if Indiana can not just win the national championship, but go 16-0, beat Oregon twice, and beat Ohio State in the same year, and Alabama by 35.
Yeah.
If all of that is possible, I don't know if when making predictions for teams, I don't know that there's such a thing as a hot take anymore in the Power Four. I'm being dead serious. I don't think there is. Like,
you
if I
can't look at a team and be like, I think they're going to win the national championship, or I think they're going to make the college football playoff. No longer can somebody say, you're an idiot, that's a stupid take. Because anything is possible, right?
Anything.
Call me Paul Pierce. Anything is possible.
Wake Forest could win the ACC in 2026.
It's possible.
100%.
It's possible. Because in 2012,
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, 2012, college football was so lopsided, right, because of how it was stacked up and the rules that were maybe or maybe not being followed. And, of course, teams in the Southeastern Conference at Ohio State here and there, they were dominating college football. But all of a sudden, we open up the rules and we let other people get involved. And it's like, holy crap, other people can win. What a crazy idea. And so, yeah, anybody can find the right coach. Any place can commit the money. Any place can say, we want to compete. We're going to try and win right now. That's what Indiana did. It worked in a very, very short amount of time. And I'm not saying that should be the absolute standard across college football, but I think there's hope now. And I think that's why, for me and Indiana people, yes, it's exciting that Indiana won the national championship, but I think this is good for college football. I think Indiana doing what they've done is fantastic for our sport. This has a chance, Spencer, to completely reset and wipe the slate clean of what we have thought about with the college football we know, right? It doesn't have to be the Oregons and the Alabamas and the Alabama or the Ohio States of the world. It doesn't have to be those teams every year. They're still going to be there. Don't get me wrong. But Indiana will be there too. And a team like Michigan State could get there too. A team like Florida State could get back, who has lost all relevancy, it seems like, in the blink of an eye. Like, those teams are all able to just be there. And that's what's cool about Indiana winning it all.
I think one of the common themes when you ponder the non-traditional brands that have had success, Indiana falls into this camp. Vanderbilt in the SEC being a 10-win team. Virginia was one game from the college football playoff this year. I didn't have that on my radar coming into this season. Arizona State went from 3-9 to champions of the Big 12 and literally one play from the national semifinal a year ago when they had Texas down to a 4th and 13. I think the common thread there, at least amongst those examples, because this popped into my head, the portal has allowed them to get a level of quarterback play they wouldn't otherwise have obtained. I think that's the biggest difference. And I've talked about this before, that the portal has been the biggest equalizer for college football. And I think most people look at it as, well, these top teams, especially in the SEC, can't stack talent like they used to. That's true. There is truth to that. To be sure, NIL, I think, helps spread it out as well. The bigger impact to me, I mean, Virginia was right there with who? Chandler Morris, a transfer. Indiana won it with who? Fernando Mendoza, a transfer. In the 12-team era, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks that have made the title game have been transfers. And I think think about Vanderbilt, how have they been able to rise up? Yeah, they've got some good players they've developed and found, but guess what? It's Diego Pavia that has made that engine go. And it's a fascinating question going forward. What do they do without Diego Pavia? What does that program become? But I think that component of it is what has allowed for these teams to get to this level, is they're getting a level of play behind center that they just would not have had.
And it makes you, it makes you competitive. We've always known, right, that college football, you've had to have a good quarterback there. There have been ups and downs in the waves of our sport where sometimes you need an elite quarterback. Sometimes you just need a smart game manager quarterback. And sometimes it's a little bit in between, but you still have to have somebody that's got something between the ears, that knows what they're doing and can make the throws when it counts. And I think you're absolutely spot on. It's the idea that Indiana can go to this portal, right? And we hear the portal and we know what it is, but think about what it actually is for a second. You get on a website and there are thousands of names that you can just start scrolling through, watch all their film, look at all their stats and say, we kind of like that guy. Let's go reach out. Let's see what we can do. And then on top of having a good head coach, having a good offensive coordinator, having the NIL dollars to compete, all of that is what makes today's era of college football different than any other that we've ever been in. That's why Indiana is winning a national championship. And that's also why the Hoosiers are not going anywhere. I know we're going to talk more about that in a moment, but Indiana's not going anywhere. And other teams that can get to this status, whether it takes 1, 2, 5, 10 years, you can get here and not have a major drop off. This doesn't have to be a one-hit wonder. You can build a program this way and it lasts for the future, whatever the changes that are going to happen in our sport of college football. Also, Spencer, believe that's the second time I've screwed up a basketball reference in the past 2 weeks. I first screwed up Allen Iverson and Vince Carter. I got my Celtics mixed up. That is Kevin Garnett who said anything is possible, screaming into the mic, not Paul Pierce. So that's on me. Paul Pierce is the one that got wheeled off in a wheelchair because he was injured.
Correct. And then I think he came back later in the game. Anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole and metaphorically dunk on a Kansas Jayhawk legend. But I think going forward for college football as a whole, and then later we'll get to Indiana and why they're going to be right back in this picture for 2026. Mm-hmm. I still think there's more than one way to build a national title contender. I think that what Indiana has shown is you can do it with the transfer guys, and you can bring in a bunch of guys, and you can not pay a ton of attention to high school recruiting. I don't think that's the only formula that's ever going to win a national championship. I think plenty of schools should try to be like Indiana in many ways. I think finding the right fit, though, whether it's from the high school or the portal ranks, that I think from a talent acquisition standpoint is what stands out the most to me, is Indiana has got the right type of guys that fit their scheme, that fit their staff, that fit their locker room. Mm-hmm. It just all works in perfect harmony. And that, I think, is what other schools have to try and emulate. Because you look at a place like Colorado, for example, which has been a fascinating portal case study. Well, yeah, they don't build through high school recruiting. They build in all these transfers. And what happened last year? Yeah, the culture kind of took a hit. The on-field product took a major hit as well, and it wasn't as successful. But then you look at Indiana and go, well, their culture seems to be really, really good.
Yeah, exactly. I look at Texas A&M when they were doing it with big 5-star high school recruits, and I look at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin when they were getting 75% of their roster as transfer portal guys. They got better, but Ole Miss was using good talent and stacking it over time. They didn't just go bam like that and win a national championship. It sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss. They were just going after anybody they could. A&M and the high school recruiting places was going just as big as name as they could possibly get, paying them and doing what they needed to do. You're absolutely right. Indiana finds guys in the portal. They find guys in high school recruiting. They're top 30 pretty much anywhere you look in both of those rankings last year and going into next year too. But they're okay with that. They don't care. Indiana doesn't care about the rankings. They have proven if you can play and you can fit our system and you just do what you need to do, we're going to make you better and we're going to win with you on our football team.
Yeah. And they're not going anywhere. We'll tell you why coming up next.
Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. It was awesome, wasn't it? All the tailgates, those packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments that you remember forever. And even so with the NFL or maybe a concert or any other event that you want to be a part of. But actually getting tickets to those things, it could be difficult. And that part used to be frustrating with the long queues, the logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football, basketball, NBA, NFL, you name it, they got it. All sorts of tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Why I use Game Time is because the price you see is the price you pay. And no matter what venue you're going to, if their event is on there, you can see your view from your seat in any seat in the house. That's why I like it, because you know exactly what you're buying and you know how much you're going to pay for it. So take the guesswork out of buying all sorts of tickets for NBA, NFL, sporting event, concert, music, theater, you name it, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
So the Hoosiers are going absolutely nowhere. Miami, very repeatable formula to be sure. Mark Fletcher, I believe, is back. I'm sure there'll be some discipline handed out with the punch that got thrown after.
Yeah, how about that?
The game. I mean, tensions are running high. I got to be honest, I don't put a ton of stock into it.
I don't condone it. That's not cool.
No,
take your L and walk away.
It's not okay, but I'm not going to come on here and say Mark Fletcher should never play college. It's just his emotions. Got the Indiana D linemen's talking smack there. It's just you don't know what was said. I don't. Anyway, so Miami didn't feel like a flash in the pan. This has been a slow, steady build for the Hurricanes under Mario Cristobal that almost culminated in their first national championship since, I don't remember the last.
02, I think. 02.
Yeah, 01, 02, in that sort of range. I'll Google it in a sec. But they've got real questions at quarterback. As we record this show, they haven't yet landed Darian Mensah. Maybe that's right around the corner. We'll have to wait and see. But talk about the Hoosiers for a moment, Jacob, because this is just reload time. Not in the reset. No, this is reload, and Indiana is going to be right back in the thick of things in 2026.
Well, it's remarkable because Indiana has reloaded and they've brought in an incredible transfer portal class, or set to bring in that transfer portal class. And they've done it, Spencer, because of a broken college football calendar that you and I have talked about. It's more difficult to fix than we think. They've done it while they were preparing to win a national championship. They did it while beating the brakes off of Alabama, beating the brakes off of Oregon, and then preparing to beat Miami by a one score in the national title game. They went and replaced their quarterback. They went and replaced both running backs. They went and got a new wide receiver, one possibly, with Nick Marsh. Like, they have gone and gotten dudes that they knew they needed. And some of the time off, I really do think, in a weird way, because now the portal is open for Indiana and Miami the next 5 days. It's open, and who knows what's going to happen with that. Good news is Indiana's already had those conversations. They've already talked to all these guys. They knew going into the Natty what was going to happen. They knew who was coming back. They knew who was leaving. They knew who was out of eligibility, and they already have a good idea on who's going to replace them. Names you need to know: Josh Hoover, the TCU quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the portal. He will be replacing Fernando Mendoza. He'll step right in line. I think he's going to be very good in Bloomington. You also bring in Turbo, our guy at the running back position. Still looking to probably get one more as of right now, but you bring back Kobe Martin, the freshman, Lee Beebe Jr., who looked good before he got injured. He was the UAB transfer, but there's a couple of names floating out there that Indiana is still up in the air on. And as of this recording, no official news has been released. And that's Omar Cooper in the receiver room and D'Angelo Pons in the cornerback room. D'Angelo Pons is leaving. That is, I mean, I just think that's a no-brainer for me. The guy is probably a second-round pick at the corner spot. He's a top 5 corner in college football. I think he goes to the NFL. There's some questions on the offensive line, too, with guys like Drew Evans and Carter Smith if they decide to go to the NFL draft. But Indiana's brought in several dudes, including Joe Brunner, the big one from P4. So that's why Indiana's not going anywhere, Spencer, because they've reloaded. You get the DB from AJ Harris, the DB from Penn State. Yeah. He's awesome. Can't wait NFL to see him. Yeah, and you know what position he plays? Corner, which is kind of a telling sign of what D'Angelo Pons could do. So all of that to say, Indiana's losing a lot, right? You lose guys like Fernando, because he's going to the draft. You lose guys like Aiden Fisher, Michael Kamara, those guys who have built this thing in the last couple of years. Yeah, it sucks. They're leaving, but Indiana's replacing them. And now, here's what's cool. Before it was, well, Indiana's getting 3 stars and maybe a 4-star here and there, but they fit the system. Indiana likes them. They'll make them good. Now Indiana's going to get 4 stars and some 5-star flirts that they like, and that can fit their system. And they're winning national titles with 3 stars. Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. If Indiana has 4 and 5 stars, it may be the start of something beautiful in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories of the offseason that will be discussed frequently here on the show is what the recruiting fallout is from all of this, because the Hoosiers have had no brand, no identity. They popped onto the scene last year, but when you win the Big Ten and the national championship in the same year, boy, that does something for the brand recognition on the recruiting trail. And I know that most of you listening to or watching this show are diehard college football fans in all likelihood.
Hope so.
Who last year realized that Indiana going 11-2 was a big deal. I can guarantee you, amongst high school kids, it didn't make anywhere close to the same level of impact as this year. I bet there are some that realized Indiana was an 11-game winner in 2024 for the first time when they won this year. Like, wait, where did Indiana come? Oh, well, they're really good the year before. Yeah, you can do more. And we know Indiana's administration and financial situation's committed to winning at a high level. Curt Cignetti and the coordinators not going anywhere. And then you look at their schedule for 2026 going, and I tell you what,
it's not bad.
It's not a cakewalk, as long as you ignore the non-conference, which is a joke. It's ridiculous.
Which we will ignore.
The Big you're going to ignore. No. Don't, none of this we. There's no we will ignore. There's you will ignore. And
you better
the national championship game and everything Indiana just did and accomplished is all the more reason why I want to see them play a quality, high-profile non-conference game and why they should be required to do so. The Big Ten needs to step up to the plate on that. But that
Don't
might
hate
depend.
on the mean green from North Texas. Don't
I
you
will.
dare.
I will at any particular moment that
all
I
they're
choose.
missing is their quarterback and their coach and basically everybody off.
Oh, and their leading running back and receiver. Yeah, other than those guys, sure, they could reload for the fine folks in Denton. But yeah, North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, it's a joke. But in Big Ten play, the 4 games that stand out the most to me: Ohio State, USC, Michigan, and Washington. Now, that's a pretty solid lineup of high-profile football games for the Indiana Hoosiers. And here's the good news. Of those 4 games, 2 of them are at home, and it's Ohio State and USC.
Huge.
I mean, you go out Michigan and out Washington, not an easy place to go either. Ohio State this past year, the reigning national champs. Third straight year, by the way, the Huskies will host the reigning national champ in Big Ten play because they did it with Michigan the year before as well and won. They lost to Ohio State. Ohio State was the first Big Ten team to go to Seattle and win a football game.
How about that nugget?
They were the first one to do it in conference play. And guess what? I'd take the Hoosiers right now.
Yeah, I mean, other games in there, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Rutgers, like those aren't even pencils or pin-ins. Those are double Sharpie in. I mean, those you're going to roll. You do have a tricky game on the road at Nebraska. We'll see what they're going to be. You never really know, right? We also don't know.
You know who their quarterback's going to be?
No.
Anthony Calandria. Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year at UNLV. Just played a season for head coach Dan Mullen and led the Rebels to a 10-win season and berth in the Mountain West Championship game, which they lost for a third straight year.
So he left them to go to Nebraska, and then UNLV picks up Jackson Arnold to replace him.
That is correct.
Interesting. I missed that. I didn't know he went to Nebraska.
Well, you're clearly not an everydayer of Locked On College Football because you're a nerd.
Well, some of us have national championships to worry about and not what Nebraska football was up to. But we don't know what order this is in, right? But yeah, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Rutgers, like those games are terrible.
I can't see less than 10 wins. I don't know why I would pick less than 11.
You mentioned it. Ohio State, USC at home. That's so awesome, dude. Ohio State getting to come here, USC getting to come here. That's
one
huge.
Of the games of the year.
Cool road trips to Ann Arbor, right? And then going out to Seattle. And then that's it. That's your schedule. Like, Indiana is back to the playoffs next year. On paper, they're a playoff team.
12, 16, 2014 playoff. I don't think it matters.
Doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. 10-2 with that schedule would get you in. I don't think Indiana's going 10-2. Eventually, they've got to lose a couple one-possession games. Eventually, they're going to lose a football game again. I just don't know when. And I'm with you that I'm fascinated to see how the order of all of this shakes out because that matters a lot. But that is why our coverage here at the Locked On Network rolls along all offseason from now until the 2026 season.
All right, final segment on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And unfortunately, I figured we should talk just a sliver, just a little bit of Indiana basketball because they do play tonight, in case people forgot. You may be so on cloud nine and so high on Indiana football, you may not watch Indiana basketball for a year. And you know what? I understand. That would be okay. But for those people who are interested in what's happening with Indiana basketball, they do go on the road tonight, and they do take on the Michigan Wolverines. Now, this sounds scary. This sounds daunting. This sounds like an impossible challenge. And I think it's true. I don't see a world where Indiana wins this basketball game. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't think that this is a situation like we saw last year, right? Where Indiana goes on the road and pulls off the upset against Michigan State. Different coach, different team. I get it. I'm just saying I don't see a world where this Indiana squad goes into Ann Arbor in that building with that crowd to a top 5 team in the country, one that has beaten people so bad they've thought about giving up on the season, and Indiana come out of this thing alive. I mean, there's a chance you don't even walk out of here. Like, they may just clip you at the knees and you may just be done. Like, that's how bad this could be. And I hate to be a negative Nancy. I really, really do, especially with all the positive energy coming from the football side of things. But my God, I mean, this could be nasty. Folks, have you looked at what Michigan's been up to this year? Have you seen what they've been doing? They beat a top 25 Auburn team by 30. They beat a top 15 Gonzaga team by 40. They smoked Rutgers. They smoked Villanova. They smoked Maryland, which those teams are not good. They beat a top 25 USC team by 30. By 30. Now, they struggled with Penn State. They lost to Wisconsin. They struggled with Washington. And they did kind of struggle with Oregon. But 3 out of those 4 games are on the road. The Wisconsin game was weird to me, and Wisconsin played extremely well on offense. They dropped 91 on that Michigan team. Teams have just not done that this year. I don't think that's Indiana tonight. I really, really don't. Even if the Hoosiers get hot, right? We know with this Indiana basketball team that they are extremely streaky. They can get hot for 10, 15, 20, heck, even 30 minutes at times, but it's not going to last the whole game. And the glaring problem that I'm sure all of you have already screamed at your TV or at your computer or at your phone by now is Indiana doesn't have the bigs to hang in this game. And you would be absolutely right. Indiana might lose the rebounding battle by 20 tonight. You have nobody to run with Mara, their center, who is 7'3". You have nobody to run with the Axel Lindenborg, who might be one of the best players in college basketball. He's 6'9". You probably don't have anybody to run with Morez Johnson, who is 6'9". Okay. You have nobody to run with those guys. They average 7 rebounds a game each. They all average 7 rebounds a game. Indiana does not have that. Reed Bailey will get dominated in this game. I think Sam Alexis is good enough to run with one of them, but not all. And other than that, you really don't have any bodies in there. Trent Sisley, he'll foul out before the first half is over. You can't rely on a big guard or a 3 like Tucker DeVries to get in there. And other than that, your 7-man rotation doesn't have what it takes. That's my concern tonight is this may not even be a 21-0 game before it even starts, right? This might just be a slow, painful death where Michigan scores, you miss a bucket. Michigan scores, you miss a bucket. Maybe they miss a shot and you luck into a rebound and you get a bucket, and then Michigan scores another one. I can't give over crazy analysis here because there's not a world where this happens. There's not a world where this happens tonight. Indiana can win some of the games on their schedule, but it will not be this one. It won't. Wilkerson would have to play the game of his life and give you 30. DeVries would have to come out of whatever crappy slump he's in, or maybe just the bad mental state that he's in. Tatum Conaway is going to have to score 20 tonight. And Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis are going to have to find something on the offensive end and the defensive end of the floor and not foul out before halftime. I don't see where that happens, and Indiana is entering a bad part of their schedule on a 3-game losing streak. That's why the Iowa game was so important, right? That's why you couldn't get beat by 17 on your home floor against that Iowa team, because now you have this game coming up tonight. You have a road game at Rutgers on Friday, which who knows? Rutgers is bad, but you're not that great either. And then here comes Purdue next Tuesday night. Then you go on the road to UCLA and USC before you welcome in that Wisconsin team who just beat this Michigan team. You're in a bad spot, dude. You're in a bad spot. And Darren DeVries has got to find something. And so my goal tonight, as we wrap up here, my goal tonight is for Indiana to not give in. Don't lay down. Don't give up by halftime. Don't give up with 15 minutes to play in this thing. And if you're Darren DeVries and it's not working, do something different. Try to work something in. Work on something. Because you are major underdogs in this thing. I think 15.5 is maybe the spread that I saw. Hammer it. That's what I would say. Hammer that thing. And Indiana's going to have to find some life. They're going to have to find some leadership. They're going to have to find some mojo. I'm just afraid that it's not going to happen tonight on the road at Ann Arbor. So we'll see how it goes. We will be here for a live show right after that as Indiana takes on Michigan tonight on the hardwood. Of course, more college football content. You had some on this episode today. More coming out as well with the transfer portal and Indiana winning the national championship. So thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you and your time as always. Until tonight, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.